70 to 80 times around the sun, then we're all gonna be fucking dead. So whatever. I tried. Alright, I went out there with my heart and my nuts. And I fought my little ass off. Alright? I hope nobody's sitting around thinking that Juice Robinson isn't made of the right stuff. Because if you think that, fly to Narita. I'll meet you there. And I will beat the shit out of you. Because that guy is a badass. He's one of the biggest badasses I've ever met in my life. He is different than he was 8 years ago. He's better. He took over the world in another company. And he quit because he was pissed off. If you couldn't see the chip on his shoulder, you're blind as a bat. He came here and he made an example out of me. The one thing he did do tonight was he got rid of C.J. Parker. There ain't 1 ounce of C.J. Parker in this body right here. Not 1 speck of DNA pumping through these fucking New Japan veins. You understand me? He is dead, and Juice Robinson killed him. I will get back to where I'm supposed to be. You guys are gonna have a great time watching it. Just change. Go to hell. All right, go to hell. These Japanese people, they love me and I love them. You get on your keyboards and you can say all you want about me. But I want you to know, all you on your keyboards over across the Pacific Ocean, hanging tight in the good old red, white, and blue. When I have that belt over my shoulder, I don't think America. I don't think USA. The only 4 letters that I give a hot damn about is IWGP. And I hope you all take that personally. All right?
That was Juice Robinson moments after losing the IWGP US Heavyweight Championship to Jon Moxley this past Wednesday morning at Best of the Super Juniors 26, I believe it was 26 finals, where we also saw Will Ospreay become the Best of the Super Juniors. He will be going up against Dragon Lee tonight. He would be going up against Dragon Lee by the time this video goes up. Of course, I'm taping this before Dominion. I will have a review or a partial review of Dominion tonight, later on in the day, but I wanted to get this out beforehand. This match was badass as can be. This was Jon Moxley's first match post WWE. And it was everything we hoped and more. I will play you the Jon Moxley portion of this entire video after we talk about the match, just to split it up. But Jon Moxley came through the crowd at the beginning of this match, not like he would with like the WWE would be actually through the crowd. He came down from like the end to the side. What he was wearing was shocking to me. I didn't expect him to be wearing and people even mentioned this. What is his badass jeans he wore during Double or Nothing's, the end of Double or Nothing, when he came out and attacked Chris Jericho and the referee and Kenny Omega? They were nowhere to be found. He comes out with his Mox jacket on, shorts, traditional wrestling shorts, and it looked like they had some gold trim on them, knee pads, and black shoes, wrestling shoes, that looked like they had some gold trim on them as well. So definitely shredding away any poor version of WWE that there is. No more Dean Ambrose is left in Jon Moxley. This guy was somebody who went into this match with just to prove that he is better than what WWE ever let him be. This guy and Juice Robinson, that promo from Juice Robinson was awesome. Kevin Owens even mentioned a couple days ago that Juice Robinson is one of the best promos in the game. I think he even mentioned that a year and a half ago or so. Juice Robinson shows you that he is definitely one of the best promos out there. The biggest surprise, other than what Jon Moxley was wearing, was the fact that Juice Robinson shaved his locks. He used to have long hair and everything, giving him an identity. And against New Japan, which I guess Kevin Kelly said on commentary, against New Japan's wishes, he shaved his hair for this match. So he went into this match just with a new look and a new attitude to take on a guy that he knew was going to come out and kick his ass. Commentary also didn't think this match would go more than 5 minutes. By the time this match ended, Kevin Kelly was like, if you would have told me this match would go 23, 24, 25 minutes, I would have called you a liar. Just because they knew what kind of match Jon Moxley was going to give us. and that these two beat the living hell out of each other. Before the bell could ring, these two face off just like they would in any other match. And Jon Moxley just flips Juice Robinson the birds. Double birds. Not just one, but two. And these guys, Moxley ended up busting open Juice Robinson. There was 2 table spots. Juice Robinson saying, like, cursing off Red Shoes, saying he's going to throw him to a table. And just, this was not a match. This was an absolute fight. Moxley pummels Juice to start. They trade some chops. Juice hits a back elbow. Moxley hits a knee to the gut. Moxley clotheslines Juice out of the ring and hits a tope suicida to the outside. Moxley's suicide dive when he was Dean Ambrose in WWE looked so fucking bad. Like, he was like, you know what? I don't want to do this, but I'm going to do it anyway. This looked so much better. Sending Juice Robinson to the outside. Sending Juice Robinson over to Kevin Kelly. Over the barricade. They brawl into the throw. Moxley sends Juice into a section of seating and chews on Juice's eyebrow. Yes, he actually bit him. They fight into the entryway. Moxley is like taking his knuckle and driving it into Juice's eyebrow, drawing blood. Moxley pushes the Young Lions around, which was fucking awesome. I always love seeing how the Young Lions was just like they're trying to do their job and protect everyone around them. The security in most New Japan shows is the Young Lions. So having a wrestler come out and just sit there and just bully them is always fucking awesome. Jericho does it all the time. I expect that from the Minion that he's going to probably get into the face or like mess with some of the Young Lions. Juice counters a power driver with a back body drop onto the aisleway. Juice climbs up the bleachers onto the entrance video screen and hits a somersault senton to the floor. Hardly, if ever, hits Moxley and pretty much lands on his ass. So he took the high risk, and the reward was not there. Juice brings Moxley to the ringside and throws him into the barricade. Moxley dodges a cannonball. Juice Robinson goes back first into the barricade. This is not a WWE standard barricade. This is a blue metal barricade. This is disgusting. How bad, like, it just looked like it hurt. Let me see what Moxley chews on Juice's bleeding eyebrow, sends him back into the ring. Moxley hits a crotch chop to Juice's knee. Moxley drives Juice to the corner and smashes his knee into the ring post. Moxley hits a neck breaker. Moxley covers for a 2 count. Moxley pummels Robinson. Moxley chews on his ear some more, eyebrow some more. Moxley locks in a half crab, and Moxley transitions that into an STF. Moxley pummels Juice. Juice hits a spine buster, and Juice pummels Moxley some more. Juice corners Moxley and rains punches upon him. Moxley gets up out of the ring, and Juice hits a pescado. Juice crashes Moxley on the barricade and knocks Moxley to the floor. Moxley and Juice get back in the ring, and Juice hits a lariat. Juice hits a double knee gut buster, which I think that's called the Juice Box is what they call it. Juice climbs up top rope, and Moxley shoves him. This looked fucking nasty. He's up top, and Moxley just pops back up and shoves him, and he just goes crashing to the floor. Moxley chases after him. Moxley gets a table from under the ring, gets a chair from the under the ring, takes it, and looks like he does a Mick Foley style elbow like jump off the top rope, off the apron to the floor, to the table, but the table did not break. Moxley's like, fuck, I'm gonna have to break this the hard way. Suplexes Juice through the table and gets back up to the ring after he gets back in the ring. Juice gets in the ring as well. Which, yes, in New Japan, I didn't know this, but I knew they went to 20. But I didn't know that they did not have Champion's Advantage in New Japan. With watching WWE so long, you get conditioned to this type of shit. Moxley was 1 point away from becoming United States Champion via DQ. I did not know that was how that worked in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Kevin Kelly said that, and I was like, wow. So, one, DQ doesn't seem to be a big thing in New Japan, especially for matches like this. But I guess you can win by countout and win the championship, which I found out really weird. Moxley hits an X-Plex, you know, that super X-Plex that Pete Dunne does. This one was with more authority. He flipped him so fucking fast. Juice Robinson, like, with so much authority, Juice Robinson landed, and I thought that he was done. He looks that looks so brutal. Moxley sends Juice's legs into the ring post and then locks in a ring post figure four, Bret Hart style. Moxley breaks the hold. Moxley gets another chair and wraps it around Juice's ankle, looking to go up top and land on Juice Robinson's leg while it's wrapped around, the chair's wrapped around it. He didn't do it at the ankle. No, he did this at like thigh length, at like thigh height, above the knees. So if he would have hit this, Juice Robinson would have been done for his career. He would have been done. Red Shoes is admonishing, is like yelling at Moxley to not do this, don't do this, we don't need to do this. I'm just paraphrasing, I don't know what he actually said. Moxley gets distracted by this, yelling at back at Red Shoes, allows Juice Robinson to recover and throw the chair at Moxley's face, knocking him down into the ring, and Juice Robinson gets back to the ring. Juice hits a corner lariat, Moxley hits a lariat after that. Moxley and Juice trade elbows and headbutts. Moxley counters left hand with left-handed guard. Juice counters the dirty deeds. Both men go tumbling to the arena floor. Moxley gets another table. Juice hits the left-handed guard. Hits a cannonball into the table. Table doesn't break. Juice Robinson gets the table and says, I'm breaking this table, motherfucker. That was his words, not mine. I found that hilarious. I'm breaking this table, motherfucker. I did forget to mention when he got put through his table, his foot actually went through the table. That looked disgusting. He picks up Moxley, powerbombs him through the table, gets back into the ring as Moxley does too. Juice gets Moxley back in the ring and locks in a modified Boston Crab. Not a normal variant. I don't remember what kind they called it, but you grab it from you don't grab them from the top of the legs. You go from like the top of the legs, not the bottom of the legs. Moxley counters with a clover leaf. Juice counters by biting Moxley's face after Moxley gets out of that. Moxley hits a left-handed guard. Moxley counters Pulp Friction. Juice counters Dirty Deed with the roll-up for two. Both men hit lariats. Moxley kicks Juice in the shin. Moxley hits Dirty Deeds, but gets only a 2 count. Moxley's like, fuck, I gotta up it a little bit. Hooks him in for another Dirty Deeds, but hits what we now know is the Death Rider, I guess. Picks him up and brainbusters him with a nasty-looking DDT for the 1, 2, 3 at 24 minutes and 14 seconds. Winner and new IWGP Heavyweight Champion, US Heavyweight Champion, my bad, Jon Moxley. Excellent match. Excellent match. More cannot be said about this match. These two beat the living hell out of each other. This is what Moxley had to say after his match.
I'm not even gonna get a chance to catch my breath, am I? First and foremost, I want to say thank you to New Japan Pro Wrestling. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to come over here. Thank you for welcoming me with open arms, making me feel like part of the family, making me feel like I'm at home. Give me this opportunity against Juice Robinson tonight. To come out here, thank you for giving me my freedom to come out here and apply my trade the way I want to apply it. Come out here, freedom to be able to be out here and do me. Thank you to New Japan Pro Wrestling. Thank you to Juice Robinson for sharing the ring with me tonight. I've known Juice for a long time. I've known him since we were little kids. 20. I mean, you're a kid when you're 20. He left America. They told him, you go be a star. There's a reason that I've been tormenting you for weeks. There's a reason why I targeted you for this. It's because you are a star. All right? And I know you're going to come back gunning for this harder than ever. All right? So bring it, motherfucker. I'm going to be training harder than ever. I'm going to be ready for you. Everybody in New Japan, everybody all around the world that thinks they want to step into New Japan, I got a message for you, all right? If you're thinking about coming after me and coming after this, you better strike first. You better get me before I get you, because I'm on the warpath. I'm on the hunt. For anybody who stands in my way, all right? I ain't afraid of no man. Y'all gonna find that out. The biggest message I can deliver, I delivered tonight in the ring. I speak the language of violence. So you go look at Juice Robinson's forehead. You go look at Juice Robinson's nose. You go take a look at Juice Robinson's leg. And you know what my message is.
And yes, Juice Robinson. So apparently, Juice Robinson and Jon Moxley. I keep trying to say Dean Ambrose for some reason, but Juice Robinson and Jon Moxley's interviews were happening at the same time. Because in the Jon Moxley one, you can hear Juice Robinson yelling at what he was saying in his interview. Now, I do know at Dominion, which will be will be done and over with before this video goes live, that Jon Moxley will be facing off against a young lion. I fully expect Jon Moxley to win that match, just to build up his credibility and his his badassery or whatever you want to say, just to make him built up to be a bigger star. Unlike WWE that likes to 50-50 book everything, and New Japan Pro Wrestling doesn't believe in 50-50 booking. They don't, unless it's something that has to do with like a bigger storyline. So Jon Moxley versus Juice Robinson again. I don't think there'll be a rematch until before All Out, or until October, because I'm pretty sure he'll still be around. It would not surprise me if he gets added to the G1 Climax or is a part of the G1 Climax, which starts out in Dallas later next month. I think it starts out July 6th, so it would not surprise me if he's there for that. But yes, IWGP Heavyweight Champion Jon Moxley. Now, before we get out of here tonight, because I know it's not going to be a long episode, Jon Moxley was was interviewed by a website called 25 Years Later site. He was interviewed, and there's some questions that were asked, and I want to go over things that was asked, and then what he said, just to go over what he has to say. He did have another interview where he talked about Triple H buying up the indie scene for WWE was a bad idea, which obviously it was, and he's pretty much poking fun at Triple H, who he says Triple H is trying to be more cool and to get some indie cred, and it's just not working out for WWE. It's as bad as when the territory days back when Vince McMahon was buying up all the talent in the territories and killing the territories off. It's not going to be like that for indies nowadays, but as bad as it was then. Jon Moxley, formerly known as Dean Ambrose, while WWE has turned the wrestling world on its head this week, Moxley debuted for brand new All Elite Wrestling, attacking Chris Jericho and Kenny Omega after their main event match. Following that up with an announcement that he would also sign to wrestle for New Japan Pro Wrestling, and then finally appeared on Chris Jericho's Dark is Jericho podcast, giving an interview nobody had who listened will soon forget. Despite all that, Moxley still has a lot to say, and this individual was fortunate enough to spend an hour speaking with him about a wide variety of topics. Be sure to leave a comment, and let us know what you think. AG, which is the guy who, I don't remember this guy's name, but he was the one asking questions. He said, in less than a week, you debuted for AEW, announced that you signed with New Japan, and had a major interview with Chris Jericho. Jon Moxley said he's feeling pretty good, feels like I'm right where I'm supposed to be sitting. The podcast seemingly got bigger reaction than I thought it would. Which, honestly, I think it got a bigger reaction than anyone thought it would. That podcast was, and will go down as probably the greatest podcast to ever, greatest wrestling podcast ever. Unlike CM Punk back in 2014, who went out and did the Colt Cabana podcast, pretty much said, fuck you to wrestling, and said a bunch of shit to pretty much diminish WWE completely and be derogatory towards WWE and the professional wrestling business. Jon Moxley went on to Talk is Jericho and spoke the truth, and if you were paying attention, we didn't need to hear what Jon Moxley had to say. All Jon Moxley was doing really was confirming what us as wrestling fans already knew. I didn't know if the response would be positive or negative, but I didn't really care. I had things I needed to say, and I tried to do it in the most objective way possible. I tried to emotionally detach from it, which is very difficult to do sometimes when you're telling some of those stories. I am happy people liked it. You never know if people are going to judge you or make up their own opinion, but I didn't care. I didn't want to come off as an ungrateful to WWE. That's why when he opened up that podcast, the first 2 minutes of that podcast, he said how he's thankful WWE gave him the 6 years that he was there, or the 7 years he was there. He met his wife there. He grew as a person there. He learned how to be a better business, how to handle his business better in WWE, and so much more. Just because he went off for the rest of that podcast and buried WWE, he also wanted to make sure everyone knew that he was thankful for actually having his time in WWE. I didn't. The gods, or whatever God you choose to believe in, that bless me with all of these things that I have. My wife and I have a very nice home, and I don't have to be financially dependent on WWE anymore. I am grateful that they gave me the opportunity to do that. I don't want anyone to think that I am snotty, entitled kid or anything, but some of those stories you wouldn't believe. Some of these stories about how WWE works are so unbelievable. Somebody has got to say this stuff, and there are so many people in WWE that can't. I can. It's the giant elephant in the room that's screaming hello. Everyone knows that everything we're doing is stupid, but we're still doing it. Something has to happen. I couldn't help it from the inside. I tried, but they all think I'm some kind of idiot, but I saved all my money, so who's the idiot now? That's a big thing that also people need to work on, is the fact that, yeah, a lot of things that he said out there, I'm sure, if it wasn't for WWE, we would all be like, yeah, I'm sure. Another thing people need to realize, new contracts coming up from WWE. I mentioned this yesterday, if you want to check out UnScripted episode 73, part 1. WWE, I have a very suspicious feeling that contracts from here on out are going to have NDAs in them, non-disclosed agreements. That if you don't read your contract straight through, you're going to sign a contract, and if you're not happy with how WWE goes, you're going to leave and you're going to try and do what Jon Moxley did, and they're going to have the right to sue you. So to anybody who's signing a new contract for WWE, make sure your lawyer goes through it, because I guarantee you WWE is going to do everything they can to get those NDAs in there, so that if you leave WWE, you have to keep your mouth shut. And there has been a lot of people out there who've talked to Jericho and said, I can't wait till I can come on your podcast or go to Wade Keller or anywhere else and be like, listen, yeah, this, and this happened to me. What happened to Jon Moxley happened to him, but this is what I had happen, and it's just as bad to him, if not worse. And I know Mercedes, Brody Lee, and others like that are probably going to have that feeling. AJ then said, the obvious comparison to you on Talk is Jericho is CM Punk on Colt Comander's podcast. A lot of people wondered if we would be getting something similar, but I think we were drastically different. You didn't burn bridges, you told the truth. Jon Moxley said, and this is true, absolutely true, no matter what CM Punk has said or any other former WWE wrestler has said, this is 100% true. A bridge is never burnt in WWE. Let me repeat that. A bridge is never burnt in WWE. Vince McMahon would have me back tomorrow and would love it if I came crawling back to him. Yes. I think Punk had a lot more personal animosity towards WWE and specific people. I don't know every detail of his story, and I haven't spoken to him since he left WWE. His experience drove him to not like wrestling anymore. I think for me, I wanted the exact opposite. I just got pro wrestling back after losing it years ago. I'm like, whoa, I'm back in the game, here we go. I wanted to make sure that people knew that there was no bitterness and that my love for wrestling and my desire to perform for the fans, my desire to meet and exceed these expectations, and my love for the fans has only gotten bigger. They have stayed with me through thick and thin, and they're going to follow me wherever I go. Now, there's AEW fans. I can still be WWE fans, but there are AEW fans too. Not trying to come off as arrogant, but that's a lot of fans. That's a lot of fans that are now following AEW. We're garnering a huge fan base, and we're only done one show. It just so happens that the one show we've done was fucking awesome. Even if this whole thing goes fucking tits up and we never run another show, that was one hell of a show. But we're going to run more shows, a lot of shows. We're running a show June 29th in Daytona Beach, Florida. Me versus Joey Janela. That's a beautiful, ugly mess. Ha ha ha. Of course, Jon Moxley and Joey Janela will face off in June, AEW's Title Fest. So, yeah. That's a big thing that everyone tries to sit there as like, oh, CM Punk burned his bridge years ago. He pretty much they took him to court. They'll never have him back. Are you out of your mind? I guarantee you, if CM Punk called up Vince McMahon tomorrow and it's like, Vince, let's talk numbers. What do you want me to do? What do I have to do to come back? I guarantee you, Vince McMahon would be on the fucking first plane ride to his house with a contract. Having this guy back. Nobody ever burns a bridge in WWE. If it makes financial sense, they will be back. Bruno Sammartino, Ultimate Warrior, both had, like people said, those guys had burned bridges before coming back to WWE. You don't burn a bridge in WWE. If you've been there and you're somebody they put a lot of stock in at one time or another, they will have you back in no time. Like Jericho. This entire AEW thing can go tits up and just die. And Jericho could just talk to Vince, and Vince would be like, well, like, I guarantee you, Vince McMahon would just have a goddamn field day if AEW did not work out. Because he'll be like, Chris, crawling back to me, huh? But you thought you could beat me with another company, huh? I knew you'd come back. Oh, Dean Ambrose, you coming back too, huh? I knew you'd be back. Yeah. Nobody burns a bridge. They just put a box. Not a box. They just put a blockade around that bridge for now. It's been a long time since you've been out of WWE. What's it like being in the non-WWE locker room after all these years? Moxley said, I wasn't in the locker room. I was hiding all day. A lot of these people I still haven't had a chance to meet yet. I did get to meet some of them after the show. For me, the experience, creativity, the collaboration, I texted Cody and told him that when I was coming back from the ring to make sure he had a camera guy following me to get a backstage promo in the hall as I'm coming back from the ring. There's a camera guy, not a crew. There wasn't a producer and a writer there too, along with the boom mic guys. It was one guy following me down the hall with a camera, and he points the camera at me, hits record, and 2 minutes later we have a promo. No writing, no fancy lighting. Points the camera at me and press record. Done. 2 minutes. Did another thing with Joey Janela for the Young Bucks show. They had an idea. I said, cool, add a little to it, and 3 minutes later we had another promo. They had another idea. 3 minutes later we had a third promo. In 10 minutes backstage at AEW, we knocked out 3 quality promos that would have taken a whole day in WWE. Let that sink in. In 3 minutes, what is it? Let's see, in 10 minutes, they did 3 promos. Paradigm Shift one that I played for you guys last week on part 2, which thank you for that 120 plus views. And the one for being the Elite, which was Joey Janela pulling a cigarette out and Jon Moxley taking the puff and throwing it away. 10 minutes. In WWE, they would have had, Vince McMahon would have just sat there and had you to take after take after take after take after take after take until he felt like it was good. It shows you the difference right there. A 10-second shot can take an hour with all the setup. If someone walks by, we should have to shoot it over. Everything's got to be perfect. If we're interviewing Phil Jackson in halftime of a basketball game and someone walks behind you, it doesn't ruin the interview. He's just a guy in the background. It's real sports. There you go. Another thing right there. You know how many times you see, like, the NBA Finals are going on right now. You know how many times you see people in the background of an interview with a player, like there's commotion in the background. You keep on going with the interview. You don't pay attention. As long as someone doesn't walk in front of the interview, everything's fine. But in WWE, nope, you have to do it again and again and again. Oh, you stumbled your words. Take another take. Oh, this person walked in here. Take another take. It's just, that is absolutely ridiculous. This is what's great about AEW. 10 minutes, 3 promos, that was it. I think we've only seen 2 so far, but 3 promos. That was it. In AEW, I think we're going to have a lot more of that feel. It might not be super pretty and slick. Sometimes I feel like WWE is so well produced that it takes me out of it. We walk through matches so many times before a major show, plan out every camera shot, every facial. There's no rawness to it. It's too well done. I like when cameras are trying to keep up with the action. They don't know what's going to happen. It makes it seem so fanatic, especially in a Young Bucks match or something like that. So what if they missed a shot? We'll get it on replay. It happens all the time in real sports. Sometimes a gruesome injury will happen and the camera misses it because it wasn't part of the main play. So they go back and show a replay, and you get a close up and react to them. Not real sports. They really don't like to show gruesome injuries. If it's a gruesome injury, they'll show it once and be like, "We're not going to show it again." If it missed it, they don't want to show it again. I don't want to see another gruesome injury like that on those. He said, this guy asked, in 2009-10, you were the best promo guy in the business. To hear you saying on Joker's podcast that you fell out of love with promos really sucked to hear. Is that passion coming back? He said, Jon Moxley said, 100%. My filing cabinet of ideas for promos, angles, concept moves, and big and small ideas got emptied out the moment I left WWE. Everything I had before WWE is lost. Everything I had as Dean Ambrose or as a Shield guy is lost. I shit-canned all that shit. I'm starting over. My cabinet is empty, but it's filling up quickly. I can't wait to start getting this stuff out there. And what's nice is, with him being free to do what he wants, his ideas, we will see his ideas a lot more than you would ever see in WWE. I would love to see what Dean Ambrose would have been like if he would have got a run in NXT. Not Florida Championship Wrestling, where we didn't get to really see anything unless you were looking on Daily Motion. I would have loved to see what that Dean Ambrose would have been in NXT. Only for him to come up to WWE, it'd be what he is now. And what he was then, before he left now. The independent wrestling scene is completely different than when he left in 2011, AG asked, and he said, "It's a whole different world. I never made money back then before I came to WWE. You would have thought I was some kind of hot deal on the indies, but I was making max 100 to 225 a night, driving all over the country. I only made money if I did a death match. That's when I started borrowing my health for money. Oh, if you want light tubes, that's an extra 200. If you want a bunch of blood, that's an extra 100. If you want me to take a bump on barbed wire, that's 500. My point is, the indie scene is totally different now. There's Impact, Ring of Honor, New Japan is awesome. Now, indie wrestling used to seem so bottom of the barrel. You would so rarely see a huge show, but now I feel like you see a huge indie show every week." That is absolutely right. 2009, 10, and before that, until recently, the indie scene was dreadful. There's a reason why people wanted to always, people's goal was to get to WWE, is because until you got to WWE, you weren't going to be making much money. WWE was the big bucks. WWE was the big money. And then somewhere down the line, before Cody left WWE, the indie scene started to bounce back, and there's a lot of places you can go and get a good payday. WWE is also a problem with this, is because the WrestleMania weekend. WrestleMania weekend is the biggest weekend of the year in all of professional wrestling, not just WWE. You have Ring of Honor, you have the G1 Supercard that happened with Ring of Honor in New Japan this year. Like House of Glory is there, Impact Wrestling is there, CZW I believe is there. You have Defiant Wrestling, WCPW did this back in 2016 I believe, or 2017. They went to the Orlando WrestleMania weekend and put on a show there. Like, the entire wrestling indie world comes together that weekend because that's where all the wrestling fans are going to be. And that is one of the hugest things. When I watched All In last year, I didn't know half of the guys. I never even seen them work before. I was gone a long time, 8 years in the WWE bubble with blinders on, and that's a thick bubble, man. 300 days a year, no break. My body hurts. It's hard to explain the intensity of a Monday Night Raw. People running up to you in a panic, saying, we need to do this, and this before the show even starts. We need to do a promo. Vince doesn't like this line. Oh, we need to get that approved. People running around doing rehearsals, and then once the show starts, you're on live TV. It's very demanding, but I don't give a shit about that anymore. Not my problem anymore. We're going to be on live TV with AEW, and it's cool that I have that experience, but everyone has worked live TV before, and it's different. See, that's going to be the positives of having a Dean Ambrose, a Chris Jericho on AEW's TV. Those two know what it's like to be on live TV. Cody does too. A lot of the guys working in AEW have never even experienced a live TV or the rigors of working a live TV. So Chris Jericho, Cody, and Dean Ambrose are like three of the big major ones to know. And live pay-per-view is not the same thing as live TV. Live pay-per-view, yes, the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, Hangman Page have all been a part of pay-per-view. I'm talking about live TV, 2 hours a night, 4 weeks in a month, 52 weeks a year. Chris Jericho, Dean Ambrose, and Cody Rhodes all know that. Dustin Rhodes as well, Jim Ross as well. Those guys. That's where you're going to see like what they can do outside of just being wrestlers. Younger guys and younger girls are going to be able to pick their brains to wonder how to sustain doing this 52 weeks a year. It's going to be really interesting. And a testament to the indies and how well they're doing, considering that WWE has been bringing so many top indie stars to NXT. This is what I was talking about, Hunter buying the indies. This was the portion I was talking about. Jon Moxley said, I never thought of that until you just said it, but it's amazing. I thought it was a bad idea when Hunter started buying the indies. You had me, Seth, me, along with Joey Mercury, and we were able to sneak in a few key guys like Luke Harper, Neville, Cesaro. Once I was on the main roster and NXT started, which I wasn't a part of every week, Triple H was taking an Instagram selfie with some indie guy. I don't know if he was trying to make himself look cool and get some indie cred or what, or make NXT cool. He basically started buying the indies. I remember thinking that it might not be a good idea, then where are all of the good ideas coming from? If they signed Daniel Bryan at 21, he never would have become Daniel Bryanson and never would have been, you would have never had WrestleMania 30. Excellent point. If they signed CM Punk before he really became CM Punk, he never would have done what he did. If they signed me at 21, I never would have become anything good. I had to develop first before getting brought in. Buying up all of the indie scene was the same as Vince buying up all the territories back in the day. There's nobody left to cherry pick for talent. It's amazing that even though they bought up the indies, that it has repopulated itself stronger than ever. It makes you very optimistic about the future of pro wrestling. That's probably the biggest difference between my interview and the Punk interview. He was basically saying, fuck pro wrestling, and I was saying that I got my love of pro wrestling back. I want to wrestle everyone. Let's drop all the bridges, get all the companies together, and have a super show that sells out a stadium right now. Fuck it. The sum of wrestling outside of WWE is bigger than WWE. I feel like myself and the entire AEW roster and all of the fans are the same team, reaching for the same goals to make wrestling awesome. Not to be embarrassed to tell people you're a wrestling fan because they say to you, oh, that show that with fart jokes and they poop on each other or whatever the fuck happens over there anymore. And that is the biggest thing about WWE. Vince McMahon finds wrestling as a dirty word. Why? Because back when this is from Vince McMahon's mentality back when he was a kid. When Vince McMahon was younger, wrestling was dirty. If you were a wrestling fan, people would make fun of you. Wrestling was wrestling was bad. Wrestling wasn't as popular as it was like when he got a little bit older. He wants to kill off wrestling. He wants no one to even talk about wrestling anymore. He doesn't see wrestling as anything good. That's why you see the poop jokes. That's why you see all the toilet humor and the shit that we don't want to see. If you're a wrestling fan and you show someone some things from WWE, you'd be embarrassed. You're damn straight we would be. Oh, let me see. Drake Maverick pissing himself at Survivor Series, pissing on Robert Roode's robe. That's embarrassing. The Uzi Hot is embarrassing. That shit, if I was a Revival, I would have walked out of my contract immediately. I would have said, you know what? Fuck you, Vince. I'm out of here. You want to bust out old VHS tapes to show them why you're a wrestling fan because this isn't it. I want people to be wearing an AEW t-shirt and have someone say, oh, you're a wrestling fan? Fuck yeah, me too. When I was standing at the poker chip at the end of Double Nothing, I didn't know when we were going off the air. I stayed up there, but for some reason, I just wanted to take a fucking victory lap. Security did not appreciate it, but I took a giant victory lap around the arena, off the air, and I felt like I was with 12,000 teammates. We were all AEW, and we had that common bond. It was kind of funny because All Elite Wrestling did put a post show. They put what happened after the show went off the air on their YouTube channel. And Jon Moxley's walking through the crowd, and some guy in a blue shirt just walks up and hugs Jon Moxley, and Moxley just sits there and lets him do it. Doesn't shove him off, and he's like, all right, yeah, let's get a hug going on. Yeah, there's a lot of things that need to be changed in WWE. And here's the thing: if I had friends who were around or something, and they weren't wrestling fans, they didn't know professional wrestling. If they were somebody who just abstained from professional wrestling, and I was watching WWE Monday Night Raw, as soon as I heard the knock on the door and they said, "Hey, it's me. I'm changing the channel because WWE is embarrassing." WWE is that thing that you just don't want to show your friends anymore because it's just absolutely disgusting. Vince McMahon has taken something that was awesome at one time and has just whittled it down to fart jokes and stupid shit that nobody should find funny. The 24/7 rule title is shit. It is trash. It is a joke. That just diminishes their titles even more. The AEW title does not have a champion yet, and that championship is more prestigious than everything on the main roster outside of the WWE Championship, because that title's been around since 1966. WWE's got to clean their act up. They're not even, they're like, oh, but it's for children. No, it's not. Their demographic is nowhere close to being for children. If they were for children, they wouldn't even be able to have a wrestling match. There seems to be this internet wrestling fan theory that once Vince is gone and Hunter's in control, that everything is going to be okay. Jon Moxley says, and this is, I'll have to see what this goes, but yeah, that is something that a lot of wrestling fans, including myself and others, have said. Jon Moxley says everyone seems to like NXT and there's no Vince on that product. I think he's the most capable guy of taking over the whole thing, and certainly not. I can't imagine the expertise it would take in so many areas it would take to sit in Vince's chair. He's the only real option, but he's 50. Vince is 70, and Vince's mother is like 90-something and still plays tennis every day. If Vince goes until he's 90, Hunter won't take over until he's 70. I'd much rather see it change sooner than later because Vince is out of ideas. He can't adapt. It would be the best thing for him to at least step aside for a while and see what happens. He's trapped in this bubble that he's created around himself. He was a genius in the 80s and knew how to adapt in the 90s. Well, he had to adapt in the 90s because he was forced to. That's the thing. Vince McMahon, if WCW never came around, the Attitude Era never happens. If the Monday Night War never happens, if WCW doesn't ever get Nitro and they never go head to head with WWF, the Monday Night War never happens. We don't get Stone Cold Steve Austin. You don't get The Rock. You don't get the Attitude Era at all. They just stick to the good old fashioned cartoon shit that they're doing nowadays, and I don't think they would have lasted. I think they would have went out of business on their own. But things turned around and they started doing the Attitude Era. Neither of which are true in 2019. You know that Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire, where in the beginning William Dafoe was the bad guy and they vote him out of his own company? Why aren't the shareholders getting together here and saying, this dude is laughing at his own fart jokes, we got to get him out of here? Isn't there a way where we can all band together and squeeze him out? He went from creating modern wrestling to being one that's hindering it the most. But that's over there on that side. Over on this side, we're doing nothing but creating. I don't have to worry about what's going on over there. Which, that's true. Yes, in the first Sam Raimi Spider-Man movie, Willem Dafoe, who is Norman Osborn, gets voted out of his company, and he goes completely mad and becomes the Green Goblin. Why can't they? It's a publicly traded company. There are shareholders. The stock's going down. The ratings are going down. The shareholders have got to put two and two together and say Vince McMahon's the problem. Nobody wants to admit Vince McMahon is the fucking problem. That is the thing. Oh, he's a genius. He came up with all this shit in the 80s and the 90s. This is 2019. He's not a genius anymore. A genius is only a genius in their prime. Geniuses don't stay geniuses forever. Everyone falls eventually. It's time for him to fall. Vince McMahon's mom's still alive? Like, holy shit, she's 90-some years old? That's crazy. I'm just going to say that one. People weren't quite sure how to interpret you not saying much about Triple H and Jericho's interview. My thing was between me and Vince. I had a good relationship with Hunter. There's no heat. The only person I might have had a bad relationship is Vince. And that's not a bad relationship because of animosity. We just don't speak on the same language creatively. It's better for both of us not to work together. With everyone else, it's all good, you know. Yeah, that's the thing, is that Jon Moxley never went through NXT, so he never really had that one-on-one time with Triple H as much as he had with Vince McMahon. Main roster is run squarely by Vince McMahon, whereas the NXT is run squarely mostly by Triple H and his crew. So why would he have much to say bad about Triple H? Because by the time he came up to the main roster, Triple H was on the part-time list going on to work in NXT. So not too much there. Yes. And I believe we're almost done here, no? Yeah, we have like a couple more of these. Just for knowing you for a long time, I know how important Japan has always been to you. How much do you want to work there? You just signed in New Japan. Jon Moxley says, at the very least, it has always a bucket list thing for me to at least have one run in Japan. Of all my favorite places I got to wrestle with WWE, the shows in Japan were always my favorite. I love the fans, the culture, the respect for pro wrestling. It makes you want to stay in the ring forever. New Japan gave me a buzz shortly after I left WWE, and without hesitation, I was in. To go back to Sumo Hall with New Japan this time, I can't wait. I've only seen WWE broadcast Raw once from Japan. That was back in like 2004, 2005, 2006. That was something that was odd just because of the way Japanese crowds you watch their shows. Like you watch Chris Benoit versus Shawn Michaels, and these guys are wrestling, and the crowd is quiet. Quiet. I'm like, what is going on here? They stop for a minute, and the crowd actually starts clapping and stuff, and I'm like, okay, this is different for me. I've watched some New Japan shows, and yes, I did watch Death Rider versus Jon Moxley, Death Rider Jon Moxley versus Juice Robinson, and the entire Best of the Super Juniors event, which was a bunch of throwaway tag team matches in the three big main events. So Hiroki Tanahashi versus Jay White, Juice Robinson versus Jon Moxley, and Will Ospreay versus Shingo Takagi. Three great matches. The rest of it outside of the Billing Club versus Chaos of Okada and Rocky Romero versus Brody Lee and Marty Scurll. The rest of the matches before that were just throwaway. He was asked, should we be looking forward to you in more places besides AEW New Japan? Jon Moxley said, I could pop up anywhere, man. I got the rest of my year planned, some bucket list stuff. I'm putting my foot to the gas pedal this year because I'm so excited about stuff, and then probably let off a little in 2020 and probably focus on AEW. I've got a movie in pre-production. I'm trying to make my own movie. I've got a lot going on, and at that moment, I might just pop up and fight, and a fight might break out in the ring around the country. I wanted to add this, my final step that didn't quite fit in my body of an interview, but absolutely deserved to be told. He said, and I quote, I was privileged enough to be able to work for Vince McMahon and also work with Dusty Rhodes, who was the head of creative at FCW when I was there. I had a very great and fulfilling time there. I would sit in the office with Dusty in the afternoons and just shoot the shit. In between training sessions, we would talk creative and ideas, and he was still able to point out in his life to get excited about the idea just the same way he did in the Apex in the late 80s. I was privileged enough to work for arguably the two biggest creative driving forces in our industry. I'll never get the main event WrestleMania, but I got to main event Starrcade in my hometown of Cincinnati, and that's right up there. The top for me, even though it was WWE's version, still I was in my hometown, and Dusty created Starrcade. I didn't look at Dusty as a mentor there. No peers to Dusty Rhodes. Honestly, that is absolutely true. But he treated me like one. He had this vision for me and how I was going to take over WWE. These vignettes of what being in a smoky bar. The camera zooms in on my back. Dean Ambrose leather jacket in the Viper Club. He called it the Viper Club, but he meant the Viper Room. He had this vision of me as a Johnny Depp, River Phoenix. You're James Dean, baby. You're James Dean, baby. He literally saw me as the coolest person in the world. That's how he pictured these vignettes and pitched them to me. Dusty saw me as the coolest person in the world, and Vince McMahon saw me as an idiot. That's the difference between the two. Flash forward to my first promo I released after leaving WWE, the prison one. I knew we were filming in LA. I kept thinking about the leather jacket in the Viper Club, and I insisted on getting a shot at the Viper Room just for me. There was deep meaning to that. What I didn't know is that the dice on the wall were on a 2 and 5, double or nothing, but that conspiracy theorist out there noticed it. Of course they did. How many people actually went out there and analyzed every frame shot of this entire video, this minute and a half video? There were people just on every frame by frame, and when that 25 came up, everyone's like, double or nothing. It wasn't. It was just a homage to Dusty Rhodes. The other conspiracy theory I heard was that the dog represented Roman Reigns, the Hound of Justice. The dog was just a good boy doing his job, but hey, art is subjective and it can mean whatever you want it to be. So that was a conversation from 25yearslater.com. Andrew is his first name, is the interviewer's first name. But that was something I just wanted to talk about because, yes, Jon Moxley is the biggest talk. He is the biggest, hottest commodity in this in the entire world right now for professional wrestling. He does have a match coming up at Dominion, in which I'm taping this at 11 o'clock midnight, 11 o'clock. So in about 5 hours, I'll be sitting down watching Dominion. I have a feeling he's going to be opening the show. I will talk about his match because I know it's not going to be that big of a match. Tetsuya Naito versus Kota Ibushi, Chris Jericho versus Kazuchika Okada, Dragon Lee versus Will Ospreay. And if any other matches pique my interest, I'll talk about those too. But until then, hit that subscribe button, comment down below, like or dislike this video, find me on Twitter and Twitch at The France Club, and I will see you guys later today for a mini or full review of Dominion from Osaka, I believe, Osaka-jo Hall in Tokyo, in Japan. Until then, my name is The France, and I'll see you guys later.